Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the human colony ship Horizon's Edge. Through the main screen, she could see the blue and green planet they had traveled 5 years to reach. 50,000 people slept in the ship's cargo holds, waiting to start new lives on Kepler 442b. But something was wrong. "Captain, we have a problem," said Lieutenant Ben Carter from his station. "There's a massive ship blocking our path to the planet." Lisa moved closer to the screen. The alien vessel was 3 times larger than their colony ship. Its surface looked like black metal with strange lights running along its sides. She had never seen anything like it. "Are they trying to talk to us?" Lisa asked. "Yes, Captain. They're sending signals on multiple frequencies. Dr. Alex Chen is working on translation now." Dr. Chen was their best language expert. He sat at his computer typing fast as alien symbols filled his screen. Sweat ran down his face as he worked. "I'm getting something," Chen said. "It's basic, but I think they're telling us to stop. They don't want us to land on the planet." Commander Jake Sullivan, the ship's security chief, stepped forward. "Captain, our weapons are no match for that ship. If they want to fight, we're in trouble." Lisa nodded. She had hoped their first meeting with aliens would be peaceful. "Keep trying to talk to them, Chen. Tell them we come in peace." Minutes passed. The alien ship moved closer, its weapons powered up, making the humans nervous. "Captain, they're responding," Chen said. "They want to meet face to face. They're sending coordinates for docking." "That could be a trap," Sullivan warned. "Maybe," Lisa said. "But if we don't try to talk, they might attack anyway. Prepare a small team. You, me, and Dr. Chen will go aboard their ship." An hour later, Lisa found herself walking through an airlock into the alien vessel. The corridor was tall and wide, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were made of the same black metal as the ship's outside, but up close she could see it wasn't metal at all. It looked more like dark crystal. Strange sounds echoed through the hallways as they walked. Chen carried a translation device, though it was mostly guessing at alien words. Sullivan kept his hand near his weapon, ready for trouble. They entered a large room where 5 alien beings waited for them. Lisa tried not to stare, but she had never seen anything like them. The aliens were 8 feet tall with bodies that looked like they were made of blue and silver crystal. They had 4 arms each and faces that reminded her of insects, but with intelligence behind their large eyes. The largest alien stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind blowing through a cave. "I am War Commander Thexal of the Zephyrian Military Collective," Chen's device translated. "You have entered our territory without permission." Lisa took a deep breath. "I am Captain Lisa Martinez of the human colony ship Horizon's Edge. We didn't know this planet belonged to anyone. We've traveled very far to find a new home." "Humans," Thexal said the word like it tasted bad. "We have heard of your species. You are weak. You fight among yourselves. You show mercy to enemies. This planet is claimed by warriors, not by soft creatures like you." Sullivan's hand moved toward his weapon, but Lisa stopped him with a look. "We don't want to fight," Lisa said. "The planet is large enough for both our peoples. We only need a small area to build our colony." Another Zephyrian spoke up. This one was slightly smaller but carried more weapons. "I am Sub-Commander Veltar. Humans cannot survive on a world claimed by the collective. You are too weak. Your young cannot defend themselves. Your adults waste resources protecting those who should die." "That's not weakness," Chen said before Lisa could stop him. "That's what makes us human." The Zephyrians made sounds that might have been laughter. Thexal raised one of his 4 arms. "You speak of strength, but we see only softness. In our culture, only the strong survive. The weak are left behind. This is how we became the greatest military force in this part of the galaxy." Before Lisa could answer, alarms started ringing throughout the alien ship. Red lights flashed on the walls. A Zephyrian soldier ran into the room and spoke quickly in their language. Thexal's expression changed. Even without understanding alien faces well, Lisa could see he was worried. "What's happening?" she asked. "The research station on this planet's moon has gone silent," Thexal said. "Our sensors show native predators have overrun the facility. There are Zephyrian scientists there and some of your people too from the early survey mission. We have to help them," Lisa said immediately. Thexal stared at her. "The facility is lost. The creatures that live on that moon are too dangerous. Any rescue mission would fail." "You're giving up on your own people?" Sullivan asked. "If they cannot defend themselves, they are not worthy of rescue," Veltar said. "This is the Zephyrian way. Lisa felt anger rise in her chest. Well, it's not the human way. We'll go rescue them ourselves. Your small ship cannot survive the moon's atmosphere during the storm season, Thexal said, and your weapons are too weak to fight the Shadow Stalkers. Then we'll work together, Lisa said. You have the ships and weapons we need. We have the determination to save lives. Isn't that what real warriors do? Protect those who can't protect themselves? The Zephyrians spoke among themselves in their own language. Lisa waited, knowing this moment would decide whether humans and Zephyrians would be friends or enemies. Finally, Thexal turned back to her. Very well, human captain. We will allow you to join a rescue mission, but when your people fail and die on that moon, remember that we warned you. This will prove that humans are too weak to share this world with warriors. And when we succeed, Lisa said, maybe you'll learn something about real strength. Thexal made that sound that might have been laughter again. We shall see, soft creature. We shall see. As Lisa and her team prepared to return to their ship, she wondered what they were getting into. But she knew one thing for certain. No human would abandon people in danger, no matter how impossible the rescue seemed. That was what separated them from these crystal warriors, and maybe it would be what saved them all. 2 hours later, Sergeant Katie Brooks checked her rifle one more time. She stood in the cargo bay of a Zephyrian transport ship with 9 other human marines. Across from them, 6 Zephyrian shock troopers prepared their own weapons. The aliens wore armor that looked like it was grown rather than built, covering their crystal bodies in dark plates. Remember, Katie told her squad, we're here to save lives, not prove anything to the Crystal Boys. Private Joe Martinez nodded from his position near the door. How bad do you think it is down there, Sarge? Bad enough that the Zephyrians lost contact 3 days ago, Katie said. These shadow stalkers they mentioned sound nasty. Sub-Commander Veltar approached the human group. Even in armor, he moved like a dancer, all 4 arms working together perfectly. Human soldiers, he said through his translator. When we reach the research station, you will follow our lead. Do not do anything foolish to get yourselves killed. We know how to fight, Katie replied. Do you know how to rescue people? Veltar made a sound that might have been annoyance. If the researchers cannot defend themselves, they are already dead. We go to recover equipment and data, nothing more. Katie bit back her first response. These aliens really didn't understand humans at all. The transport ship shuddered as it entered the moon's atmosphere. Through the small windows, Katie could see a world covered in twisted trees and strange rock formations. The research station sat on a hill, surrounded by what looked like a jungle of black and purple plants. Landing in 30 seconds, the pilot announced. The transport touched down on a cleared area near the station. Katie could see broken windows and damaged walls. Claw marks ran across the metal surfaces. Whatever had attacked this place was big and had very sharp claws. Motion sensors show movement inside the building, Veltar reported. Could be survivors or predators. Katie's squad moved out first, weapons ready. The air on this moon smelled like sulfur and rotting plants. In the distance, something howled. It was a sound that made Katie's skin crawl. The research station's main door hung open, bent and twisted. Inside, the hallways were dark except for emergency lights that flickered on and off. Katie switched on her helmet light and immediately wished she hadn't. Blood covered the walls, alien blood that glowed slightly in the dark, and human blood that looked black under the emergency lights. Furniture was smashed and scattered everywhere. Computer terminals sparked with damaged wiring. Jesus, whispered Private Lisa Cooper behind her. Stay focused, Katie ordered. Check for survivors. They moved deeper into the facility. The Zephyrian soldiers followed, but Katie noticed they seemed more interested in salvaging equipment than looking for people. Sergeant Brooks called Private Dan Foster from ahead. I've got something. Katie moved to his position. Foster was standing outside a door marked nursery, in both human and Zephyrian writing. Sound was coming from inside, not the howling of predators, but something else. Voices. Someone's alive in there, Foster said. Katie approached the door carefully. It was locked from the inside and something heavy was pushed against it. Hello? She called. This is Sergeant Brooks, Human Marines. We're here to help. Silence. Then a woman's voice answered, tired and scared. How do I know you're really human? What's the capital of Earth? Katie asked. Trick question. Earth doesn't have a single capital. Katie smiled. Smart answer. We're coming in. It took several minutes to move whatever was blocking the door. When they finally got it open, Katie saw something that surprised her. Dr. Emma Rodriguez sat in the corner of the room, holding a small alien child in her arms. 5 more Zephyrian cubs huddled around her, their crystal bodies much smaller and less bright than the adults. The cubs looked terrified but stayed close to the human woman. "Dr. Rodriguez?" Katie said. "We're here to get you out." Emma looked up with exhausted eyes. She hadn't slept in days, that much was obvious. Her clothes were torn and dirty, and she had scratches on her arms and face. "The cubs," Emma said. "I can't leave without the cubs." Katie looked at the small Zephyrians. They were about the size of human 10-year-olds, but their faces already showed the intelligence of the adult aliens. Right now, though, they just looked scared. "What happened to their parents?" Katie asked. "Dead," Emma said simply. "The Shadow Stalkers got them on the first day. I've been protecting these 6 ever since." Sub-Commander Veltar entered the room behind Katie. When he saw the cubs, he stopped moving. "Young ones," he said in his own language. The cubs looked at him but didn't move away from Emma. "They won't come to you," Emma said. "They're too scared." Veltar spoke to the cubs again, this time using what sounded like commands. The young Zephyrians pressed closer to Emma instead of obeying. "Why do they cling to the human?" Veltar asked Katie. "Because she's been taking care of them," Katie said. "Kids trust people who protect them. They are not her offspring. In our culture, adults do not waste resources on young that are not their own." Katie stared at him. "In our culture, all kids matter." A loud crash echoed through the building. Something big was moving in the hallways outside. "Shadow Stalkers," Emma whispered. "They come back every few hours to hunt." Katie could hear multiple sets of claws clicking on the metal floors. Whatever these creatures were, there were a lot of them. "We need to move now," Katie said. "Can you walk, Doc?" Emma tried to stand but stumbled. She was weaker than she looked. "I'll carry her," Private Martinez said, moving forward. "No," Emma said firmly. "I stay with the cubs." "Doc, we can't fight our way out carrying 7 people," Katie said. "Then we don't fight our way out," Emma replied. "We find another way." The sounds in the hallway were getting closer. Katie could hear something sniffing at doors looking for prey. "Human female," Veltar said. "Leave the young ones. My soldiers and I can move faster without them." Emma's tired eyes suddenly blazed with anger. "I will not abandon children. I don't care what species they are." One of the cubs, a little female with blue crystal skin, tugged on Emma's shirt and pointed toward a vent in the ceiling. "She's right," Emma said. "There's a maintenance tunnel that leads to the backup generator room. We've been using it to get food and water." Katie looked at the vent. It was big enough for humans and young Zephyrians, but the adult aliens would never fit. "Veltar, can your people create a distraction while we get the civilians out through the tunnels?" The sub-commander looked at the cubs again. Something in his expression was changing, though Katie couldn't read alien faces well enough to understand what. "You would risk your lives for young that are not your own?" he asked. "That's what we do," Katie said. "That's what makes us human." The sounds outside grew louder. Something roared in the distance, and it was answered by several other voices. "The pack is gathering," Emma said. "We don't have much time." Katie made her decision. "Martinez, Foster, get the doc and kids into that tunnel. Cooper, help me set up defensive positions. Veltar, your choice. Help us or don't." The Zephyrian sub-commander stood still for a long moment, looking at Emma and the cubs who trusted her completely. "I will help," he said finally, "but I do not understand why." "You will," Katie said, checking her weapon one more time. "Before this is over, you will." The first Shadow Stalker appeared in the doorway like a nightmare made real. It stood 7 feet tall on 4 legs that ended in claws the size of kitchen knives. Its body was covered in black fur that seemed to absorb light, and its head held too many teeth. 6 yellow eyes focused on the humans and Zephyrians in the nursery. Katie put 3 bullets into its chest before it could move. The creature stumbled backward but didn't fall. Black blood ran from its wounds, but it was still very much alive. "Tough bastards," she muttered, switching her rifle to full automatic. Behind the first stalker, Katie could see more shapes moving in the hallway. The pack was bigger than she had hoped. "Tunnel now," she shouted to Martinez and Foster. The 2 Marines were already helping Emma and the cubs into the ceiling vent. The young Zephyrians moved quickly despite their fear, following Emma's quiet instructions. Katie noticed that even in danger, they stayed close to the human woman. Sub-Commander Veltar fired his energy weapon at the wounded stalker. The alien gun made a sound like thunder and left a smoking hole in the creature's side. This time it went down and stayed down. "How many are there?" Katie asked. Sensors show at least 20 in the building, Veltar replied. More are approaching from outside. More stalkers appeared in the doorway. These ones had learned from watching the first one die. They moved fast, jumping and dodging to avoid bullets. Katie and her remaining Marines fell back toward the tunnel entrance. Private Cooper screamed as claws raked across her armor, leaving deep scratches in the metal but not reaching skin. They're learning our tactics, Veltar observed, his forearms working to reload different weapons. Yeah, well, let's see how smart they really are, Katie said. She pulled a grenade from her belt and threw it into the hallway. The explosion brought down part of the ceiling and filled the air with dust and debris. For a moment, the attackers stopped coming. Last chance to get in that tunnel, Katie called to Veltar. The Zephyrian looked at the small opening, then at his own large frame. I will not fit. Go, protect the young ones. What about you? I am Zephyrian military. I do not abandon my post. Katie was about to argue when more stalkers burst through the debris. These ones were bigger than the first group, with scars that showed they were experienced fighters. Go. Veltar shouted, firing at the new attackers. Katie grabbed Cooper and pushed her toward the tunnel. Move, move, move. The maintenance tunnel was dark and cramped. Katie could hear Emma's voice ahead, keeping the cubs calm as they crawled through the metal passages. Behind her, the sounds of fighting echoed from the nursery. Sergeant, Private Foster whispered from ahead. The doc wants to know if we're leaving the big crystal guy behind. Katie closed her eyes for a second. Leaving someone behind went against everything she believed in. But Veltar was right. He wouldn't fit in the tunnel. Tell her we'll come back for him, Katie said. They crawled for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. The tunnel led through the building's maintenance areas, past broken pipes and sparking electrical systems. Katie could hear stalkers moving through the rooms below them, hunting. Finally, they reached the backup generator room. Emma was already there, sitting against a wall with the 6 cubs gathered around her. The young Zephyrians were exhausted and scared, but they stayed quiet. Is everyone okay? Katie asked. The cubs are fine, Emma said. Tired and hungry, but fine. They've been so brave. Katie looked at the young aliens. Even scared, they watched everything with intelligent eyes. One of the males, slightly larger than the others, kept looking toward the tunnel they had come from. He wants to go back for Veltar, Emma said, noticing Katie's gaze. His name is Kexnal. He understands that the sub-commander stayed behind to protect us. Smart kid, Katie said. They're all smart, and they're starting to understand that not all adults abandon children when things get dangerous. Through the room's small window, Katie could see more stalkers moving through the facility's courtyard. They were organized, working together like a military unit. How long can we stay here? Martinez asked. Not long, Emma replied. They'll find us eventually. These creatures are excellent hunters. As if to prove her point, something scratched at the generator room door. The stalkers had followed their scent through the building. Katie positioned her Marines at the room's 2 entrances. They had limited ammunition and no way to call for help. Their radio signals couldn't reach the ships through the moon's strange atmosphere. Doc, Katie said quietly, I need you to stay with the cubs in that corner. Whatever happens, keep them safe, Emma nodded. She gathered the young Zephyrians around her, and Katie saw something that surprised her. The cubs weren't just hiding behind Emma. They were trying to protect her too. The largest one, Kexnal, positioned himself between Emma and the door. The scratching at the door got louder. Metal began to bend and tear under massive claws. Here they come, Foster said, raising his weapon. The door exploded inward. 3 stalkers rushed through the opening, moving faster than anything that big should move. Katie's squad opened fire, but the creatures were ready for human weapons now. They jumped and weaved, making themselves hard targets. One stalker made it past the Marines and headed straight for Emma and the cubs. Katie watched in horror as the creature's claws reached for the young Zephyrians. But Kexnal stepped forward. Despite being only a child, he placed himself between the stalker and Emma. His crystal body glowed brighter, the way adult Zephyrians did when they were angry or afraid. The stalker paused. Confused by this small defender, Katie used that moment to put 6 rounds into the creature's head. It dropped just inches from the young Zephyrian. Good job, kid, she told Kexnal. Emma pulled the young male back to safety, but Katie could see the pride in her eyes. The cub had been willing to fight for her just as she had been protecting him. More stalkers poured through the broken door. Katie's ammunition was running low and there were too many enemies. Then the room's other entrance exploded. Katie spun around, expecting more stalkers, but instead saw Sub-Commander Veltar. His armor was damaged and black blood covered his weapons, but he was alive. "I told you I do not abandon my post," he said, firing into the pack of stalkers. "How did you find us?" Katie asked. "I followed the young one's scent, and I heard them calling." Katie realized he was right. The cubs were making soft sounds, not quite words, but clearly communication. They had been calling for help in their own language. "They were guiding you here," Emma said with wonder. "They wanted you to find us." Veltar looked at the cubs with new understanding. "They protected you, and you protected them. This is not how Zephyrian young behave." "Maybe they learned from watching her," Katie said, nodding toward Emma. The attack was far from over. More stalkers filled the hallway outside, and the backup generator was starting to fail. Soon they would be fighting in complete darkness. But something had changed. Veltar was no longer fighting just to complete a mission. He was fighting to protect the cubs and the human who had cared for them. And the cubs were no longer just hiding. They were watching everything, learning how real protectors behaved. "Whatever happens," Emma said quietly, "they know now that someone cares about them." Katie checked her ammunition. 3 magazines left. Not enough for what was coming. "Then we better make sure something good happens," she said. The backup generator finally died, plunging the room into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on, casting strange shadows on the walls. In the dim red glow, the stalkers looked even more terrifying. Sub-Commander Veltar moved closer to where Emma sat with the cubs. His forearms reloaded weapons with practiced efficiency. "Human female," he said quietly. "Why do the young ones trust you more than they trust me? I am their own species." Emma looked up at the tall alien warrior. Even in the emergency lighting, his crystal body caught and reflected the red glow. "Because I've been taking care of them," she said simply. "For 3 days I've made sure they had food and water. I've sung to them when they were scared. I've stood between them and danger." "But they are not your offspring," Veltar said. "In Zephyrian culture, adults only protect their own young. Resources are limited. Protecting others' children means less for your own." Emma shifted one of the cubs, a small female named Lyra Tell, to a more comfortable position. The young Zephyrian had been sleeping against Emma's shoulder. "Humans evolved differently," Emma explained. "We lived in small groups where everyone's children were important. If my child died but the group's children lived, my genes still survived through my relatives." Veltar tilted his head, the way Zephyrians did when they were thinking hard. "You are saying humans developed to protect all young, not just their own?" "More than that," Emma said. "We developed to form bonds with anyone who needs protection. It doesn't matter if they're human or alien. If someone trusts me to keep them safe, I'll do everything I can to protect them." Kexnal, the largest of the cubs, was listening to their conversation. He looked at Veltar and made soft sounds in the Zephyrian language. "What is he saying?" Emma asked. Veltar was quiet for a moment. "He says you smell like safety, and that you sing better than his birth mother did." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "His mother is dead?" "Yes. She was one of the first killed when the stalkers attacked." Kexnal watched it happen. "I'm so sorry," Emma whispered, stroking the young male's crystalline head. From outside the room came the sound of more stalkers arriving. Katie counted at least 6 different voices in their howling calls to each other. "They're organizing another attack," she said, checking her ammunition again. 2 magazines left. Private Martinez was down to his last magazine too. Foster had been wounded in the leg but was still able to fight. Cooper was guarding the broken door with a rifle that jammed every few shots. "We can't hold much longer," Katie admitted. "Then we need to change the situation," Veltar said. He spoke into his communication device, trying to reach the ships in orbit. Static filled the air. "The atmospheric storms are blocking our signals," he said. "No one knows we need help." Emma looked down at the cubs around her. They were all awake now, listening to the adult voices with the intensity that only frightened children could show. "There might be another way," she said slowly. "Veltar, can young Zephyrians communicate over long distances?" What do you mean? Some of Earth's animals can send signals that travel much farther than normal voices. Whales, elephants. Could Zephyrian cubs call for help in a way that would reach your ships? Veltar stared at her. How do you know about the deep call? That knowledge is restricted to our military. I didn't know about it, Emma said. I just hoped something like it existed. The sub-commander knelt down beside the cubs. He spoke to them in rapid Zephyrian, gesturing toward the ceiling. The young aliens looked uncertain. They are afraid, Veltar said. The deep call requires them to use all their energy. In their weakened state, it could hurt them. But it might save them, Emma said. More sounds came from the hallway. The stalkers were testing different approaches, looking for weaknesses in the defense. I will not order children to risk their lives, Veltar said firmly. Emma looked surprised. That's very different from what you said earlier about leaving the weak behind. Earlier, I did not understand. These young ones have shown courage. They protected you when they should have been hiding. You have shown them what real strength looks like. Kexanal tugged on Emma's sleeve and pointed to his throat. He made questioning sounds. He's asking if he should try, Emma translated, somehow understanding the young alien's meaning. The choice must be his, Veltar said. I will not command it. Emma knelt down so she was at eye level with Kexanal. If you try to call for help, it might hurt, but if you don't try, we might all die, including you and your friends. The young Zephyrian looked around the room. He saw the human soldiers preparing for a fight they probably couldn't win. He saw Sub-Commander Veltar, who had risked his life to find them. Most importantly, he looked at Emma, who had protected him and the others when no one else would. Kexanal stood up straight and nodded. He says he will try, Veltar said. But not alone. All 6 cubs together might have enough strength. Emma gathered the young Zephyrians around her. Are you all sure about this? 5 pairs of large alien eyes looked at her with complete trust. They were scared, but they believed she would keep them safe no matter what happened. Together then, she said. The cubs formed a circle with Emma in the center. They began to make sounds unlike anything the humans had heard before. It started as a low humming that seemed to come from deep in their chests. Gradually, the sound grew higher and stronger. Veltar's communication device began to pick up the signal. It's working, he said with amazement. The call is breaking through the atmospheric interference. The cubs' bodies began to glow brighter as they put more energy into their call. Emma could see they were getting tired, but they didn't stop. That's enough, she said after several minutes. You've done enough. But Kexanal shook his head and continued calling. The others followed his lead. They were determined to save the people who had protected them. Veltar's device crackled with an incoming signal. Sub-Commander, this is War Commander Thexal. We received the young one's distress call. Transport ships are on the way. How long? Veltar asked. 20 minutes. Katie looked at her nearly empty rifle. 20 minutes might as well be 20 hours. We don't have enough ammunition. The cubs finally stopped their calling and collapsed from exhaustion. Emma caught Kexanal as he fell, his crystal body dim and weak. You did so well, she whispered to him. All of you were so brave. The stalkers chose that moment to attack again. They came from both entrances at once, moving faster and more coordinated than before. These creatures had been watching and learning. As the final battle began, Emma realized something important. The cubs weren't just hiding behind her anymore. Despite their exhaustion, they were trying to protect her just as she had protected them. They had learned what it meant to be part of a pack. The final attack came with the fury of a storm. Stalkers poured through both entrances, their claws scraping against metal as they scrambled over each other to reach their prey. Katie's rifle clicked empty just as the largest stalker she had ever seen stepped through the doorway. This one was different from the others, older, scarred with intelligence that burned in its yellow eyes. It was the pack leader, and it had come to finish what the others had started. I'm out, Katie shouted, drawing her sidearm. Private Martinez was down to his knife. Foster couldn't put weight on his wounded leg. Cooper's rifle had jammed completely. They were finished. But Sub-Commander Veltar stepped forward, placing himself between the stalkers and the cubs. His energy weapons were running low on power, but he fired anyway, hitting the pack leader in the shoulder. The creature roared and charged. Veltar caught it with his lower arms while his upper arms tried to bring weapons to bear. The stalker's claws raked across his armor, leaving deep gouges in the crystal surface. Behind them, Emma gathered the exhausted cubs close. They were too weak from their distress call to move, but she could see them trying to help. Little Lyratel was making warning sounds about stalkers approaching from the side. Kexnel was pointing toward a loose ceiling panel that might fall on their enemies. "Stay down," Emma told them. "You've done enough," but they wouldn't listen. These cubs had learned something new in the past 3 days. They had learned that families protect each other no matter what. The pack leader threw Veltar across the room. The sub-commander hit the wall hard and didn't get up immediately. The massive stalker turned toward Emma and the cubs, its mouth opening to show rows of terrible teeth. Emma stood up. She had no weapons, no way to fight this creature, but she placed herself between it and the children anyway. "You'll have to go through me first," she said quietly. The stalker took a step forward, then another. It was enjoying this moment, playing with prey that couldn't escape. That's when Kexenal did something no one expected. The young Zephyrian, exhausted and barely able to stand, positioned himself next to Emma. His crystal body glowed with the last of his strength. "No," Emma said. "Get back." But Lyratel joined him. Then the other 4 cubs. All 6 of the young Zephyrians stood in a line between Emma and the pack leader. They were scared, tired, and much too small to fight, but they stood anyway. The stalker paused, confused. In all its years of hunting, it had never seen prey that protected each other this way. Sub-Commander Veltar pulled himself to his feet. He was hurt, but he was also watching something that changed his understanding of the universe. 6 Zephyrian cubs were willing to die for a human who had shown them kindness. "Impossible," he whispered. The pack leader lunged forward. Katie closed her eyes, knowing she couldn't stop what was about to happen. The sound of energy weapons filled the room, but it wasn't Veltar's depleted guns. New weapons, fresh and fully charged, cut down the stalkers with precise shots. "About time," Katie said with relief. War Commander Thexal entered the room with a squad of Zephyrian soldiers. His armor was pristine, his weapons ready. He looked around the destroyed generator room, taking in the scene. "Report," he ordered Veltar. "Mission accomplished, sir. We have recovered 6 cubs and 1 human researcher." "And the others?" "The human soldiers fought beside us to protect the young ones. They showed me something I did not understand before." Thexal looked at Emma, who was now surrounded by cubs who refused to leave her side. Even with rescue ships here, they stayed close to the human who had protected them. "Why do they cling to the alien?" he asked. Before Veltar could answer, Kexnal spoke up in his own language. He talked for several minutes, gesturing toward Emma and the human soldiers. "What is he saying?" Emma asked. Thexal translated slowly. "He says you sang to them when they were afraid. You shared your food when they were hungry. You put yourself in danger to keep them safe. He says you smell like," the word doesn't translate well, "like home, like safety." "He says more than that," Veltar added. "He says you taught them that real strength isn't about being the biggest or having the best weapons. Real strength is about protecting those who trust you." Thexal stared at the cubs. In all his years as a military commander, he had never seen young Zephyrians behave this way. They were supposed to be independent, ready to survive on their own. Instead, they had formed bonds with an alien who had no obligation to help them. "This is not normal behavior for our young," he said. "Maybe that's because no one ever showed them what normal could be," Katie said. She was reloading her weapon, but her eyes were on the cubs. These kids learned something new. They learned what it's like to be part of a real family. Dr. Emma Rodriguez tried to stand up, but exhaustion made her stumble. Immediately, all 6 cubs moved to support her. They weren't strong enough to carry her weight, but they tried anyway. "I need to get back to the ship," Emma said. "These children need proper food and medical attention." "The children will be returned to their birth clans," Thexal said. "It is our way." "No," Kexenal said in clear standard language. Everyone turned to stare at him. Young Zephyrians rarely spoke standard, and they never contradicted military commanders. "No," Thexal repeated. "We stay with Pack Mother Emma," Kexenal said, switching between languages. "She watches over us." "We watch over her, Pack Mother?" Feltar asked. It's what they've started calling me, Emma explained. I think it means I've been adopted. Thexal looked around the room again. He saw human soldiers who had risked their lives for alien children. He saw his own sub-commander, who had learned to put protection above military protocol. Most importantly, he saw 6 cubs who had discovered something his warrior culture had forgotten. Perhaps, he said slowly, there are different kinds of strength. 3 hours later, aboard the Horizon's Edge, Captain Lisa Martinez watched through the observation deck as Zephyrian and human ships worked together to establish a joint rescue station on the moon. The 2 species that had been enemies that morning were now coordinating relief efforts. Emma Rodriguez sat in the medical bay with the 6 cubs around her bed. They had been checked by both human and Zephyrian doctors and declared healthy, but they still wouldn't leave Emma's side. The war commander wants to talk to you, Lisa told Emma. Thexal entered the medical bay with Sub-Commander Veltar. The cubs immediately moved protectively around Emma, but they didn't run away. They had learned to trust these particular Zephyrians. Dr. Rodriguez, Thexal said, my people have much to learn from yours. Would you consider staying on the planet we will now share? You could help us understand this. Pack bonding you have shown the cubs? Emma looked down at Kexnal, who was holding her hand with his small crystal fingers. I think I'd like that, she said. These kids have taught me as much as I've taught them. There is one more thing, Thexal said. The cubs have made a request. They want you to be officially recognized as their pack mother in our culture. It would make you the first alien ever given such honor. Emma felt tears in her eyes. What does that mean exactly? It means, Veltar said, that they choose you as family. And in Zephyrian culture, family bonds are stronger than military rank, stronger than clan loyalty. It means they will always watch over you, just as you have watched over them. 6 months later, the joint colony of New Haven thrived on Kepler 442b. In the central square stood a statue that visitors from across the galaxy came to see. It showed a human woman surrounded by 6 young Zephyrians, with the inscription in multiple languages. Strength is not in the conquest of others, but in the protection of those who trust you. Emma Rodriguez had become more than a pack mother to 6 cubs. She had become a bridge between 2 species, teaching both humans and Zephyrians that the greatest victory was keeping others safe. And whenever new Zephyrian soldiers asked their commanders about the meaning of true strength, they were told the story of the human who proved that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply watch over those who need you. The cubs, now teenagers but still calling Emma their pack mother, had become the first generation of Zephyrian human ambassadors. They carried with them the lesson Emma had taught them on that terrible day in the research station, that real families are formed not by blood, but by choice, protection, and love. When anyone asked why they stayed so close to their human pack mother, they always gave the same answer Emma had given to those first soldiers: because she always watches over us.